Hi people, how are you all? I know it's been a while since I actually posted anything on here, and all the usual excuses probably apply. But I'm back, my foundation project is going really well, thanks for asking, and around the edges of that, I somehow found the time to rewatch the entire Lord of the Rings Extended Edition. I mean, it took me about a week because I can only watch like half a film a night because they are so heckin' long, but it was really good. And as you can probably tell from the title of this video, that is what inspired today's Speedpaint. Also, side note, I got a new mic. It's like fancy and has one of them cute little filters and everything, and it makes me look a lot more professional than I really am. So, if you feel like the sound quality has at all improved, please say so and put a comment, because I'm still fiddling around with the settings and not sure whether it's recording properly and all that jazz, so yeah, please leave a comment so I know where I'm up to with that. Would be super helpful. So Tolkien's stuff has always been really important to me and kind of a massive part of who I am and how I create stuff. Because whilst it was arguably watching Naruto and taking that first dive into the chaotic world that is anime that kind of got me started drawing and trying to create comics for the first time, it was first reading Lord of the Rings when I was like 10 or 11ish that first got me like writing stories and wanting to create my own worlds and all that. And oh my god, did I come up with so many stories. Interestingly enough though, Tolkien is probably also what put me off ever trying to write or create too many high fantasy Western European kind of based stories like Lord of the Rings kind of setting. Purely because I knew I kind of couldn't beat his level of world building, and all of the favourite bits that I would want to put into that world would just be rip-offs of his work, so I kind of never did that. That said, I have absolutely thrived on doing adaptations of similar eras, or taking dragons and just shoving them into basically every genre to ever exist. And, after all, King of Modern Fantasy never touched crime-fighting dragons, so there's still plenty of stuff left for me to explore, and I've kind of been doing a lot of that in the meantime, whereas I feel like I've deviated from the whole elves and dwarves and stuff, just because I didn't want to end up copying, and I knew I could do better, basically. But art-wise, I've rarely ever done any Tolkien, which is kind of weird. There is one drawing of Fëanor a little while back when I was last attempting to read the Silmarillion, but I hadn't quite got to the part where he starts being a massive bastard, and so the tone of that painting isn't really right at all. And I didn't talk about him in that video, I don't think, so we're just gonna, discount that, really. I wonder if maybe the reason I haven't drawn as much Tolkien is because of the way the films were done. I learnt to draw from anime and manga, and because Lord of the Rings is obviously live action, I kind of didn't know how to apply a style to it and, stylize it, and I knew I couldn't do very realistic drawings. And, the whole concept of having my own style hadn't really occurred to me at the time. And I just sort of stuck. When you have a character that you really love, and there's kind of like a thin line you walk between wanting to draw them constantly and never wanting to draw them because you can't quite get them the way you see them in your head. But here I am anyway. Like I said, recently I rewatched the extended editions and was writing just how much I really love the relationship between Gimli and Legolas. And so they're the ones I'm drawing today. The way these two interact is just so fun to watch, and the way they develop familiarity with each other, and of course the story, despite their initial dislike, it's really interesting to observe. And whilst I acknowledge the utter controversy that is the Hobbit movies, I like them okay. I get that they're not, strict adaptations, but I do like them. Back off. I think it's especially cool to remember, and it's something that's brought up in the Hobbit movies, that Gimli and Legolas have more than just the general dislike that dwarves and elves have for each other. They have quite a personal stake in this. Their families do not get on at all. And I also find it really interesting because I believe Glorfindel was originally supposed to take Legolas's place in the Fellowship, which is one of the reasons Legolas doesn't really appear in any of the works preceding The Lord of the Rings, and so it's really fun to think about where Legolas was at the time of The Hobbit. We'll never know if Tolkien would have written him in had he invented him at that point, but it's cool to, imagine, what role did he actually play in Thorin and Gloin's capture? Was he behind the scenes somewhere? Was he even aware of it? Was he not in the Greenwood at that time? And if so, why wasn't he there? And it's just very cool. Interestingly, the Lord of the Rings films do not actually ever seem to find time to focus in on this whole family feud in the early stages of the Fellowship. There's so much packed into those movies. They kind of did not have time to focus on the background characters. And so we just see a steady kind of increase in their friendship from the Two Towers onwards when, you know, it's just them and Aragorn and they kind of have to get along because there's no other options. And it sort of skips out all of that stuff about them spending time together in Lorien and getting to know each other. But it's still one of my favourite relationships. I mean, shall I describe it to you, or would you like me to find you a box? Every time. I love it. As a short person, yes, 10 out of 10, do relate. Such good films. Also, yes, I know my Legolas impression is terrible, but we're just gonna scooch past that. Now, you may have noticed that this particular drawing is significantly less shippy than my usual work, if that's the way of putting it. There's a combination of reasons for that. Firstly, I first read Lord of the Rings when I was quite young and also thought I was straight. And I didn't ship much back then. So I often feel a little strange shipping Tolkien stuff purely because it didn't really occur to me the first time round. And usually you watch something and you see a relationship and you go, ooh, I ship that. And I kind of, because I viewed everything very platonically the first time I read the books, because I kind of wasn't paying attention to the subtleties in the same way, it feels a bit strange. I also, admittedly, had a bit of a crush on Legolas as a kid, which I now realise was not so much a crush as I wanted to be him because I wanted to jump around in trees with a bow and arrow and kill things for fun and have really cool hair. But that's also probably reason number 2 why I never got around to shipping these. But I didn't really ship anybody else in Lord of the Rings. So it's not entirely based on that. In fact, by that logic, I think the character I'm most similar to is probably Eowyn, in the sense that I would really love to go out and be all cool and adventurous and accidentally mistake my wanting to be a cool adventurer for thinking I like said cool adventurer, and it's like, no, I just want to be you, not be with you. Obviously, unlike Eowyn, I cannot use a sword to save my life, which is, you know, disappointing in and of itself. I would love to be able to use a sword. I can shoot. I did learn to use bow and arrow. Possibly because I thought Legolas was cool. In fact, I think that was my main motivation at the time. But I'm pretty good at it now. Anyway, the second reason that I've erred on the side of caution with the shippiness of this piece, by which I mean it is completely platonic, is because, like many of my favourite ships, this one is built so heavily on the concept of that really strong, unbreakable friendship. I mean, these two end up sailing to the Undying Lands together hundreds of years after the last ship leaves, simply because they don't want to be parted. It's just really cute, and yeah, there's a heck of a lot of shipping potential there, but I also just really like the queer platonic vibes that we get off of this. It's just very cute. That said, I have read Sansuk, which, if you have not read it, go look for it. It's brilliant, probably the best piece of fanfiction I've ever read, which is fabulous, very long, goes on forever, but it's just brilliant. And they do actually kind of sell me on the romance there. It's very cute. They're adorable. As for the artwork itself, I took the pose for something I had originally sketched out for Jack and Yanto that you might have seen in my last sketchbook tour. I kind of flipped past it. But thought would look better here because of the height difference that would allow me to put more detail into Legolas despite him in the background. That said, trying to draw someone looking over their shoulder is never easy. And so I spent a fair amount of time just adjusting his torso proportions to get him kind of looking reasonable and sensible. Gimli was also quite interesting to draw, both because of his different proportion and just because he's got a very generally quite different character design to the sort of characters I usually create and draw. For starters, I had tons of fun playing with all like the little geometric shapes on his coat and armour and stuff, which I put around the borders as well. However, I did choose not to draw his helmet, despite the cool geometric shapes, specifically because I wanted to be able to show off more of his hair, because his hair is fabulous. The beard in particular I'm very proud of, because beards are something I've struggled with, despite drawing them all the time on my comic characters. And I think it looks really cool. I really like the way the braids are done. I love all the little extra flyaway hairs. It's just, I'm very proud of that beard. It's a good beard. And I am not sure if it's, like, something that the fanon has created and I've just kind of accidentally believed even though it didn't happen, or if it was something that was in the books because I've not read them in a while. But I've seen multiple mentions of Gimli sustaining a head injury in Helm's Deep, and at least one specific place where somebody suggested that the hair grew back white over the scar on his head, and I just thought that would look really, really cool, and so I added that in as well. So we've got a little silver streak, because he has such fun hair. Like, Legolas's hair is, like, cool and everything, because I like drawing long hair, but there's something about, like, bushy, curly hair. Loads of fun. I did not appreciate Tolkien's dwarves nearly enough as a kid, because it's so great. As for the border, I got a little bit carried away, because I wanted to create something of both elven and dwarven design combined, but then I had this genius idea that I could create them separately, so that I could technically edit each of them out and have separate images for each character, and then combine them into one, which added so much time and work to my painting that probably was not worth it, because actually the combined image looks way better than any of the others. Just goes to show that they are better together, I suppose. But yeah, bit too much time on the background, particularly as the actual mountains and stuff in the background probably could have done with a bit more detail, but backgrounds aren't my strength, guys, and the characters look really cool. I did really enjoy this piece though, and I'm hopefully going to take it as a sign to do more Tolkien art in the future. I would love to draw some hobbits at some point, and will hopefully remember to do so sometime in the next year. Maybe I could do like little bits, and I could do like the whole Fellowship. Okay, anyone who's interested in seeing me draw the entire Fellowship at some point, please comment down below, because I will do a painting for every member of the Fellowship, if you ask me to. This is a rabbit hole that I will go down for forever. But whether I remember to actually draw any hobbits or not, I hope you really enjoyed this video. Leave a comment if you did. I always love to hear your guys' thoughts, and I shall talk to you soon. Bye!